Happy Throwback Thursday, YouTube friends and family. I have something really fun to share with you today, one of my vintage gadgets. So before we get into today's video, let me just share a little bit with you about the history of popcorn. I hope you'll stay tuned. Popcorn has a very long history in this world. So what actually is popcorn versus sweet corn that you grow? Popcorn is usually fewer ears, they're smaller, and it is a very hard, small kernel. And how it pops is when heated, the moisture inside turns to steam, expands, and causes the outer portion of the kernel to burst, and therefore we have popcorn. So I did a little bit of research on how long has popcorn been around? Certainly all my life, but I know much, much longer than that. And it originates back to pre-Columbians, more than 5,000 BC is what I found. It really was not found growing as a crop and prevalent in the US until about the 1840s. It was pretty prevalent in Mississippi area, good corn growing area. So after just plain popping corn became in vogue, shall we say, people did it over a fire. If you've all seen the square boxes with the vent holes on the top and a long handle that you shake over the fire or over a campfire, that was very popular. But then people began to experiment and liked flavoring popcorn. So in comes Cracker Jacks. Now, y'all, I have had many a box of Cracker Jacks, maybe for the prize, which used to be a lot better than I think what you get today. But actually, Cracker Jacks has been around since the 1890s. So what is that, 130 plus years, a long, long time. In the 1930s, machines began to be put into movie theaters. And if you've ever been to a movie theater and you've gone in and you've smelled that delicious, buttery, salty, popcorny smell, that's something that I will forever associate with going to the movies, right? Cracker Jacks was then followed by a brand I think some of you may remember. I certainly do, and I have a funny little story to tell you about. So in 1958, Fred Minnan of Indiana introduced Jiffy Pop. Now, if y'all are young or you just never have seen Jiffy Pop, it's like an aluminum pan with an inexpensive little aluminum handle, and it's flat when you get it, but it's covered in a foil tent that's kind of woven into almost like a turban. And what you do, the butter and everything is already in there. You would put it on the stove and you would, shake it like you do whenever you make popcorn on a kettle on the stovetop. And then that would turn into this beautiful big bouffant, if you will, of popcorn. And then you could tear into the foil and enjoy the popcorn. Well, commercials were very big in the 60s, about Jiffy Pop. And we didn't have a lot of convenience foods as a child growing up. And I can remember my sister and I begging my mom to get Jiffy Pop. It's as much fun to make as it is to eat. And so my mom finally agrees. We were using the old-fashioned, put it on the stove, shake the pan, to keep the kernels moving so they didn't scorch. So it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And at the moment Mom should have taken it off, she didn't. And it went kapoo. And we had popcorn everywhere. So needless to say, that was the last time my mom ever let us have Jiffy Pop popcorn. Drop me a comment below. Have you ever had Jiffy Pop? Do you have any explosion stories like that? Once the Jiffy Pop craze kind of passed, then do y'all remember the air poppers? They were usually tall like this, and you put the kernels in, and it was basically, a way you could have a lower fat item, you know, in the low-fat craze of the actually more 80s, but 70s and 80s. So that was next. But then in the 1980s, I think it was like 83-ish, Orville Redenbacher came out with his microwave packets. So that kind of blew the market for a lot of the other devices to kind of go by the wayside. So why am I talking about popcorn? I have a really neat gadget to share with you. Stay tuned. So some of you have expressed enjoyment with some of my vintage gadgets, but I've had other people, not necessarily from YouTube, in my life say, yeah, I don't understand your fascination with things that were from the 50s and 60s, you know, that are very vintage or very atomic or mid-century-ish. And y'all, I want to tell you, things were made so much better back then, before the disposable society type thing. And many of the devices that I have, some have even belonged to my grandmother, who was born in 1898, and they still work, and they still work well. Where do you find items like this? You can find them at antique stores. You can find them on eBay. Sometimes you can get a good buy at either of those places. I think one of the best places is a thrift store that is not necessarily a Goodwill, because a lot of the Goodwill people that are sorting things will pass those on to the online auction, and therefore the price goes up. But finding a small or a local shop can be a really good place to find some of these unique items. So this is a treasure, y'all. Let me introduce you to the Robeson Electric Corn Popper. Now, this is the original box. It was made by Robeson Cutlery Company Appliance Division in Perry, New York. What I thought was really neat, might take me a minute, okay. Right here is where it was shipped to and sold from, and that was Kearney Shipyards in Kearney, New Jersey. And it does actually qualify as new old stock, so it was brand new in the box. It's never been used. It's been tested and it does work. Have I used it? I have not. So part of these Throwback Thursdays are helping me to start using some of the vintage items that I do have, you know, more for show. I can actually use them. So this is the 4-quart model. I have looked and looked and looked, and I find conflicting information. Sometimes when you get to items made in the 50s, 60s, it can be kind of uncertain. I actually looked at some of the patent information for this device, and I'll share it with you in just a moment. And the best I can tell is 1956 is when this was created. It's called Model 754A, and it's the Popper Dome. So it came with this cute little slip that says, this corn popper is equipped with a recycling type thermostat, which will shut off after approximately 7 minutes and come on again after approximately 20 seconds. It is necessary to ensure satisfactory results on all grades of popcorn, and then unplug it once the popping action stops. And then it came with this beautiful little booklet, and it says, to get the greatest enjoyment from your Popper Dome corn popper, read this entire book carefully. So I've looked at all of the instructions, and let me share with you all, I have thoroughly cleaned and disinfected this, even though it's never been used, you know, they call it NOS or new old stock. Anytime you purchase an older electronic type item, one caution I will give you is be very careful that the cord is intact and safe to use. Now, this does not have the old like fabric coated cord. It has just a regular, but it is a 2-prong cord. So it's in great shape, no problems there. So this is what the little machine looks like. So kind of space age, atomic spaceship looking thing, I thought. It's in beautiful condition. There's no scratches, no rust, no anything. And on the handle here is the name, the automatic corn popper. It only says Popper Dome on the box. So let's all say a prayer. But here's what we do. So let me kind of reposition you. All right, so the corn and the oil will go in the bottom here. We'll plug it in. The indicator light should come on. It will heat up. It will begin to pop. What the directions actually say for measurements is 3 tablespoons of vegetable cooking oil. Solid shortening such as butter, margarine, or lard must not be used in place of oil. So I was going to use coconut oil. I actually have it liquefied, but let's not do that. Let's switch it up. Let me grab a different oil here. And we'll just use some organic avocado oil. So it says, place in popper 3 tablespoons of vegetable cooking oil. Measure 3/4 cup of fresh, good grade popcorn into popper. So the kind of popcorn, this is called Amish country popcorn. I got this in Plain City at the Amish grocery. It is purple and it's tender with less hulls. As I get older, I always live in fear that I'm going to, crack a tooth or whatsoever. So I want to be extra careful. So let's measure out our 3 tablespoons of oil. And normally, if I am making popcorn just on the stove, I don't have an air popper, I would only use 1/2 cup of popcorn. So I did a scant 3/4 cup. So I'm going to put that in. And the dome itself has like flanges on it here. So you set it on and then you turn it to lock the tabs underneath the handles. So let's give it a plug in. I don't know why that's spread out a little bit. Okay. Do I have it? Okay. Okay. Plugging it in might be the hardest. And can y'all hear? It's already starting to make a little bit of noise. I definitely can smell it. It's got that I'm heating up for probably the first time in my life smell. Let's grab, just for safety purposes, a couple clean dish towels. Because what we do once it's completed its popping is you're going to unplug the cord and then you're going to flip the entire thing over. Everything I've read online says that this gets quite hot, so I don't want to burn myself, and I also don't want to burn my countertop. So, tick tock, tick tock. Let's kind of distribute that. Okay, our light is on. Ooh, that base definitely gets hot. Wonder if I should have that on a like a cutting board. Using things for the first time can be kind of nerve-wracking. I probably should have made yeah, that'll make me feel better. I probably should have made a batch before I make a batch on YouTube. But hey, that's part of the excitement, right? So I was thinking back about my experiences with popcorn and types of popcorn that I've had. And, you know, there's the Cracker Jack, there's Crunch and Munch, which I will not buy because it's so addictive and it's like sugary, nutty goodness. But I associate popcorn, for whatever reason, with the holidays, whether it be Halloween or Christmas, and making popcorn balls. My mother-in-law, God rest her soul, made the most fabulous popcorn balls ever. And they were quite messy, but it's a great memory of her in her good years. I did pull out my 1959 Better Homes and Gardens Holiday Cookbook thinking, okay, well, there's probably recipes. And indeed, there's a recipe to make Jolly Owls, you know, and they've got licorice and gumdrops for the eyes, but they are actually popcorn balls. And I thought that they were absolutely adorable. And you can also make spooky cats. So I really enjoy my Better Homes and Gardens vintage books. I don't know if y'all can see this. Let me see if I can scoot you over without dropping you. Obviously, no. Y'all, I did get a new ring light, and I'm still getting used to it, so I didn't have the head latched in. But we're starting to sizzle. So let me pause you for a moment. I'll bring you back once we start popping so you can watch the dome fill up. And then we're going to give this a taste test, and then we're going to evaluate this vintage gadget as a whole. I hope you'll stay tuned. All right, y'all, we're getting popcorn. It smells magnificent. It smells so good, so much different than, to me, the fakey butter microwave popcorns. And Miss Tina, my former work buddy, if you're watching, remember how the nurses were never allowed to make microwave popcorn because we always burned it and stunk everybody out? Yeah, well, there is that. I'm not terribly worried about the timing. I am keeping an eye on the time. We're at about 4 minutes, but this light will kick off. Wow, does that ever get hot, y'all? Woo, that's hot. Goodness gracious. At the 7-minute mark. But I like that you can see inside and see what's going on. And even though this is a purple popcorn, of course it pops white on the inside. So I'm going to let it continue to pop. I'll bring you back when it's completed, and we'll give this a taste test to tell you whether this is really as good as it smells. Stay tuned. Look at our beautiful, huge, all the way full bowl of popcorn. Actually, I didn't let it go the full 10 minutes because I didn't want to burn it. What I can tell you is this thing gets so smoking hot. If my smoke alarm goes off, it's a heat sensor as well. I can see why this is not for children. and you do have to be really, really careful. I definitely recommend, if you find one, I would protect your countertop. The bowl is also screaming hot. So, because, you know, it's all about the experience, right? I have here, let me share this with you. This is a Blendo chip and dip bowl. It is only the chip part. If y'all remember, back like 50s mostly, it would have a little metal attachment that clipped to the bowl, and it had a smaller version of one of these bowls that held the dip, so it was like a chip and dip set. It was super cute. I only have the bowl. I don't have the chip and dip set, but let's see if we can make a beautiful looking bowl. Y'all, this is light. It is fluffy. I know I haven't tasted it yet. Woo! It is definitely a hot item. Let's just set that aside. Now, before I salt it or do anything to it, let's give it a taste test and see if our Robeson Popperdome popcorn machine is as good as advertised. You all, microwave popcorn can't touch this, let me tell you. This may not be as safe or as convenient, but with no butter, no flavoring, no salt on it, it is absolutely delicious. One of the things I like to put on popcorn instead of salt and butter are nutritional yeast flakes. They have a buttery type taste to them. Really, really good on popcorn. So let me just sprinkle a little bit of that on. We'll see if it enhanced. And you can buy this. This just happens to be Anthony's brand, but easy to find. I noticed the other day at Walmart they had it, and of course you can get it on Amazon as well. So let's try it with. Y'all, I haven't even put any salt on this, and it is absolutely delicious. So let's talk a little bit about my rating of this vintage gadget. Stay tuned. All right, y'all, first, does it look mid-century modern, 50s cool? I think it absolutely does. I think it's got that atomic age, spaceship type look. I will tell you, this thing is still screaming hot, as is the glass. So does it do what it says it's going to do? It absolutely does, and it made some delicious, delicious popcorn. I might have to share a little bit with the chickens. I think they might enjoy it as well. I did put a little bit of sea salt, fine sea salt on there. Even better. Safety, I'm gonna give it, on a scale of 1 to 5, a 2.5. I think it would be very, very easy to burn yourself with this. I think it's also maybe a little bit of a heat hazard to your countertop. So I would say, you know, follow the directions, don't walk away from it, use as directed. Would I buy it again? I most definitely would buy this again. I think this is going to be a lot of fun to have, you know, especially in the winter, to cozy up with a good book and some popcorn or a movie, of course. So since we're talking all things Throwback Thursday, I have a question for you all. What kind of movie and popcorn night do you prefer? Do you like sci-fi? Do you like rom-coms? Do you like just plain comedies? What's your pleasure? Historical movies? So I pulled out a couple movies because today, y'all, it is raining kitties and puppies and maybe a few chickens. It's raining all day today, so I thought, what a perfect day to film my Throwback Thursday since I can't be working outdoors today. And I kind of went through some of my vintage type movie collection, and I came up with 2 of my favorites. I am a big fan of Audrey Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's. Y'all, if you've never seen it, it's a little dark, but it's still very enjoyable, and Audrey is truly beautiful. And then Funny Face, which is Audrey Hepburn and Fred Astaire. So that is going to be my guilty pleasure this afternoon with my giant bowl of popcorn. So I'm interested to hear, would you give this device a try? Number 1. Number 2, what do you like on your popcorn? And then finally, what movie, genre, or favorite movie do you need to go with your popcorn? I hope you've really enjoyed today's video. I've certainly enjoyed sharing another one of my vintage gadgets with you. I will see you all a little later this week. My hope at this point, we shall see, is to do a maiden voyage on my outdoor kitchen and try to do some water bath canning of some salsa. Now, obviously, it isn't tomato season yet, so I did find a really good buy on some canned petite diced tomatoes. So that is how I plan to make the salsa. So I hope you'll stay tuned. It will be Saturday's video, Lord willing. All right. Thank you all so much for your time. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and smash that like button. Don't forget to leave me a comment. If you know someone who would enjoy seeing this vintage gadget, please feel free to share my video. It always helps me out greatly. So until I see you again, be healthy, be well, be blessed. Take care.